Okay, guys, thanks for joining me today. We're going to be talking about mid-season trends. So I'm going to take a step back. Before we do some intros, I'm going to take a step back a little bit and say, at the start of 2026, we took, or Vanja, rather, did a deep dive into what are some of the trends we think are quite likely to going to be seeing during the year. And now we're about halfway during the year, so I thought we'd use this as an opportunity to sort of look back. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? And so forth. And also, maybe I think it'd be interesting to kind of explore a little bit what we think is likely to happen going forward. I think before I do the recap, we'll just do some quick intros. We've got the Bradley Cooper of logistics. That's a good thing, I think.
It's a humbling start intro. Aleksandar Milovanovic, been with the nShift for 3 years.
Okay. And what do you work with, Alex?
So now I'm part of the Experience Suite team, which is basically checkout, returns, and track. So helping our customer managers and commercial people to sell more, opt them out in meetings, processes, and so on.
And a familiar face?
Oh, yeah. My name is Vanja, and you could call me a retail strategist advisor.
I call you an expert, yeah.
Okay. I think that's a little bit much, but yeah, so I hope I can say
so you're the brains behind the original report, and I think the updated, the one we're going to be talking about today. So you've done a lot of research and investigation.
Research, yeah.
And then we got a future Bond candidate.
Well,
thank
you.
One of the best dressed men that I know, I think.
No, but yeah, Frederick Hultman, been at nShift for 6 months. I'm mostly doing the commercial, so in the commercial team for the Nordics. Just happy to be here.
Yep. Thank you guys for taking the time out. So I'm going to just very quickly, because we got a lot of stuff to get to. So I just want to run through some bullet points. And Vanja, please jump in here and say what you think as well. So at the beginning of 2026, I think if we were to say one message, it was probably that the delivery wasn't just about back-end plumbing, right? It wasn't just about nuts and bolts, and it had become a kind of competitive battleground in the sense of, great execution leading to a great delivery experience, and that's what would be a differentiator. And it was fundamentally about things like the practical, the conversion, customer loyalty, operating costs, the resilience, right, that you're offering. And the kind of central idea being that it's where and we've talked about this before, but it's where the customer promise becomes real, right? It's the situation is here and now. You've ordered something, you're about to order something. Does that promise hold true? And then we had 10 predictions. I'm going to skim over them very quickly. So AI, that's a very broad one, obviously. But what we thought was that AI would move into everyday logistics decisions. And the real barrier would be data and integrations, and about how you would actually apply that data and how that would affect the work, change the work. The second one was control towers and digital twins, and what we mean by that was businesses would move from looking backwards to predicting what happens next, and that's fundamentally about better data. I think that's a theme. I'm already detecting a theme here. I think data is the underlying theme here. But better data will allow teams to spot disruption earlier and take action. APIs and platforms, that logistics would move away from one-off integrations and APIs and shared platforms. Hello, guys. That would be us, I think. Would become the core infrastructure of things. Delivery and returns choice. I think this is something, Alex, you can speak to often. The customers would expect more control over where, when, and how orders would arrive, but also about what happens when things go wrong. What are the delivery options? How does delivery work? And what's the ultimate cost of that? Does that lead to lost sales in the future? And the last mile is also one of the things we looked at. And we talked about how the practical solutions would win, right? So lockers, PUDO points, cargo bikes, electric vans, micro hubs, all last mile stuff, drones even, and robots. I think everyone's probably seen on LinkedIn, what would it be? A sort of robot going down the street, right? Delivering something. And the last few, resilience. So obviously, as take for example the fuel crisis at the moment, resilience. Can you keep deliveries rolling? How much resilience have you built into your network? And the businesses would need to alternate between carriers, suppliers, routes, fulfillment locations, and so forth. Electrification, obviously a big one. Regulation and city access rules would be moving fleets towards electric vehicles. I can speak to that. If you look around in London today, electric is kind of omnipresent. And the progress would depend obviously on the charging infrastructure and all the kind of, the fundamentals that you need in order to actually go ahead and enable that. And I think the last three here, I'll speed through them. So one was warehouse robotics, regulation and data. Again, that theme of data. Regulation would increasingly shape how logistics networks operate. And the changing customer demand, right? So that's AI-mediated shopping. So I think in the last 6 months, we've seen it ourselves. We've probably all done it, but there was a lot of talk about, take for example, ChatGPT, that you'd be able to sort of seamlessly go ahead and order the product. And I think it's clear to all. I think I do it myself. We all do it. We go into GPT, we research a product and what have you. So the big theme underlying then all of this, the big trends: clean data, connected systems, standardized information, reliable carrier events, and all of this would essentially be encapsulated by technology and what it facilitates. So I'm going to step through now. If we take those trends as kind of sticky points, and we'll go through it and say, it's not so much, right, that are these trends happening? I think they're all happening. I don't think anyone would disagree, right, with those trends that we've identified. But the question is, how do you actually put them into practice, and where are we now? So I'm going to stop talking a lot at the moment, but I'll take the first one. So AI sort of became, I'll pose some opinions. AI became useful, but I think, and this is a bit perhaps controversial, deliberately boring, right? So what we said would there be steady gains rather than instant transformation. And what happened, and this is where I'd really like to get you guys' take on this, that most businesses are applying AI to individual use cases, and I got some figures here, but only about 17% we'll link obviously to our mid-season trends report. And you can look at this yourself, but I'm going to cite a figure here. 17% are pursuing transformational redesign, and the other 83% are taking an incremental approach. In other words, what do you call it? It's almost like a safe, steady steps in their journey to AI. Examples could be sort of ETA accuracy, forecasting, routing, customer inquiries, obviously one. So I'll throw it to you, Alex, in the first case. So you've been interacting with a lot of customers on a daily basis. How do you see, if we take that as a given, that we think that AI it's on a, what do you call it, a slow and steady path? What's your experience from talking to customers? How does the world look to you?
It's a good one. I'm thinking from the examples I'm having top of my head. It's more connected to specific use cases. One organization is having a huge challenge with, let's say, Wizmo calls. Where's my package? Where's my order? And from that, the kind of introduction to AI would rather be how to handle those tickets or those conversations with the customers. Where I see, let's say, other examples where, let's say, the logistics cost is increasing heavily during periods or during examples, and where you would like to implement AI to kind of figure out where the cost goes and also how to kind of optimize it. So what I want to say is I've been seeing clear examples that it's not one solid truth for all. It's rather where you have the challenge, and there maybe where you started to implement because of the short gain. You see, mainly I would say in resource and money in the end of the day. But I think that's what I've been seeing. Mostly.
I think that would be sort of, well, I'll give a take. I think that obviously we had the sort of the hype curve and reality kicks in, and sort of we can all agree that AI can do amazing things, but now that it really needs to justify the cost and its purpose rather than just, cool tech for the sake of tech, right?
Exactly.
What would you say, Vanja, to that? What's your take on things?
Well, I would say that, AI can't fix a messy operation. So I think all of us hear that so much AI projects is going on, but statistics also show that not many are profitable. And so it begs the question: how many actually started in the right end? That is like cleaning up your material, because maybe you have like great ideas, and the only reason it's not successful is because data in and data out. It doesn't make sense. It's not structured enough. It's not organized enough. And I think that rather than adding on like a lot of new AI, I think it should be maybe start cleaning first. And when you see what you have that has quality, maybe that's where you should start your AI project. Like what's good enough for us to actually do something with. So I think it's about maybe doing the boring job first. Make sure that that whatever you have makes sense to machine learning. And that's what I would like to say about that.
Yeah, I think that's what we said in the start of the year. That AI would become useful and deliberately boring, and I think it's a way of saying it, isn't it? But I think it gets the message. Frederick, over to you. What do you?
Yeah, no, but I mean, what strikes me from speaking to a lot of retailers across, the Nordics and Europe, mainly is that 6 months ago everyone was talking about AI. What can AI do? And today they're asking, so what measurable business outcomes? So what can AI give me now? They're not concerned about the tool itself. I think is more about I want fewer customer service calls. Where's my order? I want that reduced. And so I think it's moving, like you mentioned, they're solving one operational problem at a time using clean data and sensible sort of automation here. So I think that's exactly why the report sort of describes winners as looking deliberately boring, like you mentioned. So good AI shouldn't be visible. I think it should simply make the customer experience feel effortless. That's my take on it.
I think AI is a topic we could talk about all day, isn't it? So we'll speed through and we'll move on to some of the other things that we predicted. One was control towers. Oh, it was in and around control towers, and what we thought was that. Well, so when we talk about control towers, what do we mean? That's essentially operational excellence, right? The ability to sort of see the thing that's going to be happening and be sort of proactive to it. So what we predicted was a shift from reporting the past, as I say, to predicting and guiding the future. So using the wealth of data again, to what we think is going to happen. And again, we had an example there of using ETAs, for example, being offered to better ETAs. So that's what we thought. And where we're at, I think progress is happening, but I think much like AI, then it's on a sort of use case by use case. So, for example, which orders are at risk? Which customers need an update? Should volume move to another carrier? Should a delivery option be removed from checkout? So the question I want to pose to you guys is then, are control towers actually changing decisions or just showing more information? We'll go backwards this time around. So, Frederick, over to you. What do you take on?
I think one thing I hear repeatedly, again, is that visibility alone isn't enough. Most sort of retailers already have these fancy dashboards, telling them something has gone wrong in this case. So what they actually need is the ability to act before the customer complains or notices, basically. If a parcel, for example, is likely to be delayed, who contacts the customer in this instance? So can another carrier be selected? Is another question. Again, should the delivery promise change immediately? That's where I think modern logistics is moving from sort of reporting events to actionable sort of things. What's actually, I call it orchestrating decisions. So I think, again, that's my take on it, as in ultimately customers don't pay for visibility, they pay for reliability, which is, I think, the epitome of what we're talking about here.
Vanja?
Yeah, I mean, control towers and digital twins. I mean, control towers are supposed to kind of gather all the information and give you a overview of what's going on. And the digital twin is supposed to help you forecast how is this going to work, or what's the outcome. And I think a little bit like you said, like no one wants to really have just an expensive dashboard. You need to get the information fast, but also as quickly know what to do, because it really doesn't have any function if it just tells you like, guys, this is what happening, and then what? If you still have to do that manually, then you're not really there yet. So I think what needs to come now and what's coming is that. And you will see this across the board that like it doesn't really help the customer if you have really cool tools, but it doesn't really reaches the customer. They don't feel the use of it. So in this case, the communication here must be faster and more connective. So that means like all the manual handoffs and things that kind of is in the way for this to happen needs to stop. So I think more automation, more again, clean data, so everything that's in a network can communicate faster and clearer with each other. And I think that's what needs to be improved, and that's being improved. That's what I have to say, I think.
And I think remembering back the last 6 months, I think I've been hearing a little bit of both the customers that have a lot of data, a lot of fancy dashboards, as you call it, and also those who lack the insights, lack the data, lack the dashboards. And what I tend to see also in those meetings is that when you kind of combine having that data and those dashboards, but also the step number 2 that I think is equally important is to combine those people, combine in the same room as we are sitting here, logistics, e-com, customer service, because that is kind of giving that spark to, okay, what should we actually do when this appears? What is the procedure from here? And I think that's, I see from time to another happens a lot, because like, okay, for the example that it's obvious that if you don't have the data, most probably you won't have the processes. But also when having the data and having the dashboards, it can be, and I've been seeing it from time to another, that's stuck with one person or one function at the company. But when you're actually talking about it as a whole, as a group, and how that is impacting, then obviously you could talk about the solutions and what should happen when. I think that's... But I see it's very relevant, and I think it's it's a solid point having that in the report. I see the demand for it definitely out there.
We'll move on to the next topic. Again, that's a big topic in itself. But I think this was one of the should we call it one of the things that we predicted it, but we didn't know it was going to go that fast, and it was one of the surprises, I think, if we kind of take this mid-year checkout, and that was in and around APIs becoming infrastructure. And what we predicted at the time was a move away from bespoke integrations, which is somewhat obvious, but also a much more, given the availability of the wide availability of software, features, functionality, and so forth. That's obviously a moving train. But what actually happened was A, that was true, but B, it was happening or is happening much faster than we expected. To take an example was I'm not sure it's strictly the right term, but the standards battle over AI commerce, right? So we had someone that, Google with one view on how it should be, and OpenAI offering another, and probably other standards as well, in terms of how would you integrate commerce into the AI experience. When we talk about AIs, what do we mean then? Well, that's things like adding carriers, ability to enter new markets, and have that data to hand. It could be switching partners, showing delivery options to AI agents. So I think the question that we get into is, so are logistics APIs now a commercial capability rather than an IT issue, right? In other words, do they give you sort of operational distinction having access to these APIs? I think, to take a bottom line, if a machine cannot read your delivery options, they may become invisible. So I think we're touching on AI because I think the two are quite intertwined here, right? When you have APIs and AI, and that's fundamentally how AI would interact with your infrastructure. So Alex, what have you seen in terms of a move towards, should we call it, move away from bespoke integrations? In other words, building stuff in-house with the tools and technology you have, and using more off-the-shelf solutions. And using those APIs that the EM might expose to then allow, for example, AI agents to query your inventory, to place an order, to what have you?
Good one. Buffering with my answer here. No, but
it's a blurry question.
No, but I think what I've been seeing out there is basically that it's a trend that is maybe a bit further than the last 6 months about doing those integrations for yourself, having bottlenecks, having challenges just around the corner, and what I'm seeing out there is more, let's say, companies that is playing for the bigger run, playing it not super safe in that aspect of actually taking costs, energy, resources to invest in those projects, not because of the, let's say, effects immediately. It's rather what's around the corner. So I've been seeing that more than a handful of times, where you see that, okay, we are actually having those growth plans. We are seeing this market as interesting as we would like to be present there, but due to the, let's say, just of an integration, it's not possible. Just as one example, and I see that organizations tend to invest money, energy, and also people into those projects because of the long run, because of what the capabilities are with having those in place. I think that's my take on it.
Yeah. What do I say after this? No, but I mean, bespoke systems and integration, I mean, it's not, it's more than an IT problem in the end, because it's going to stand, it's a commercial problem, because it's going to stand in your way for launching or running your business faster. And since we now operate, I think this is also like the little bit of the theme of the conversation we're having, because nowadays we have more data than ever, more components, more communication, more moving parts. And that means that businesses need to start structuring their businesses and standardize it more and have a more standardized language, because we need these APIs to quickly communicate with the different with carriers and whatever we have. And so I think a faster communication and more standards apply to everything is something that we need to do more. I think we need to simplify. Again, going back to data, we need to simplify how we communicate, and then I think we need more standard APIs and we need better communication. And again, it comes back to this orchestration. And if some things needs to orchestrate well, then you need like good standard information and good APIs.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, this trend probably, I wrote this down actually, it's one of the most underestimated in the report. Integration speed has sort of become a genuine competitive advantage. How fast can you get something done? So retailers are expanding into new markets, adding new marketplaces, etc. And so often they're also onboarding new carriers, which is the thing that we see all the time. So if integration takes months, sometimes years, and the business simply can't move forward, can't move fast enough. Basically. So the organisations that are performing best today, have treated sort of APIs as an infrastructure rather than an IT project. So, I mean, for me, reading that report and that particular, topic on APIs integration, I think focusing on speed, delivering that speed and getting the customer started. That's my take on that particular trend. I think
we'll just, because the two sit very nicely. I'm going to come straight back to you, Frederick, because you touched on something there. So one of the things we predicted was that poor delivery, this is something we can all speak to, I think, poor delivery and return choices would cost sales. And I think what the report, the mid-season check-in, is what it's saying to me is that evidence is just even stronger now. So I'll cite another figure from the report. So 67% of shoppers have abandoned a cart because of the delivery offering.
Yeah.
In other words, it's not necessarily just a question of is my favorite carrier there, but you've got carrier animosity to deal with, but also is that carrier offering me the options that I want as well. So more than just simply a carrier in the list. More than 6 in 10 returns now happen out of home. I think that's only going to increase, I suspect. And the idea being that options should be tailored by sort of market, postcode, basket, product type. So more specialized, more what would you call it? More rich options and alternatives given the nature of the basket. So I'm going to come, as I say, straight back to you, Frederick, and say, should delivery options be treated more like merchandising? Because you kind of touched on that in your last one. And what I mean by that is if you take retailer A and B, how distinctive, or what's the distinction between sort of one of those retailers offering better, richer, more diverse returns and delivery options?
I think having a lot of customer conversations, I mean, delivery choice is rather important. It's always been linked to revenue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in this case, retailers are increasingly sort of recognising that delivery it's not just delivery, or it's not just fulfilment. In this instance, it's part of the buying decision of the customer. So if customers don't see the delivery option they want, for example, all the promise isn't that convincing, many simply would just abandon the purchase. I mean, they wouldn't do it. So that means logistics has sort of moved from or moved into the commercial sort of department. So it's not just about checkout, but checkout, delivery choice, and returns have become conversion tools rather than just operational afterthoughts. So businesses that understand that they're seeing logistics as part of the customer acquisition, not just the classic distribution. So that's my take on that. It's more about revenue now. It's more. I mean, it's moved from just a tool to conversion. How do we convert the customer? And hence why I think delivery choice is rather important. Here.
I think one of my favourite author and speaker and jack of many trades, Rory Sutherland made, I think, a really interesting observation. And sort of when a retailer essentially picks the carrier for you and says, "This is your choice of carrier." If something goes wrong, the customer will then have a tendency to blame the retailer for that because they weren't given the choice. I think that's an important thing to factor in that. That what is the net cost in terms of your Trustpilot ratings, for example, and what does that mean? Alex, this is something I think you think about a lot, right? Carrier options, alternatives.
I wouldn't, but it's a genre of interest. But I think, as Frederick pointed out as well, it's obviously from a strategic point of view, it's a part of the decision about the customer acquisition. It's about conversions. I think when you combine, what I like about the discussion in general is about, okay, if you put yourself in the customer's shoes, I think the customers in general today is more, I wouldn't say lazy, but comfortable. Like a part of actually, let's say I'm preferring a locker delivery, and that is not possible. That's for me, in my perspective as a consumer, part of the offering that the brand is actually having. So if I'm going to not stick to the locker delivery, that's part of how I maybe interpret the brand. If I'm going to go along with the purchase or not. So I think what I like about the discussion and also highlighting is it's more of a strategic question. It's about should we actually invest in this? Does we also see that this have a higher impact for us or not? It's not solely about the number of conversions you're getting. So I think that's my take on it.
Oh, there's so much information about this, so much statistics. I mean, some say that just pure consumer psychology, a person needs to see around 3 to 5 choices to feel like I have freedom. The second thing is that just having a lot of choices doesn't mean that it's going to be good. We already see, if we just take the Nordics, for example, that we have different needs in how we want to receive our parcels, for example, like if it's in a locker or if it's home delivery or whatever it is. Like the countries, they have it's very they have their own way of delivery that works for them, and it has to do with what it looks like locally. Are you delivering a parcel that's bigger? Is it out in the countryside? Then it has to be home delivery. Yeah. Is it like people who lives in the city? Then it should probably be a locker. So I think that we see more and more that retailers, they understand that they need to understand their customers. Where is this going to be delivered? And kind of, if most of them live in the city and they're going to go to their job, then they want to pass by the locker, and that's going to be a really good delivery option for them. So I think we're thinking more about how our local market looks like and adapt our choices so it fits them more and more. So I think that we're stepping away from the general, let's have some general options here so people can pick. It's more about, I picked for you, I know where you are, and these are the best choices, and you're likely to be very successful with this.
I like that, because it's moved from quantity, having loads of carriers to what do you call it, to more strategic. So this is more strategic. Place or point for you to actually receive your parcel, as opposed to, well, you have 10 different options. I mean, too much of everything is bad, right?
And that goes across as well with when I was describing the consumer to be comfy these days. It's about, we actually picked the most top 3 or top 4 and top 5 most comfy options for you. So it doesn't interrupt with that feeling as well.
Exactly.
Brings us nicely in, I think, to the number 5 now of our predictions. And so what we predicted, and this was about the last mile experience, and what we predicted was lockers, PUDO, electric vans. That mix would matter more than, well, it's a very umbrella term for it, I think, isn't it? Drones, but we've all seen the videos of the very, very exciting and interesting to watch. But I think fundamentally that infrastructure would become very important and is growing. And no surprise, I think. So what happened was the out of home has grown strongly, as we might think. And I think if there were to be one surprise, it was about the ownership and consolidation of that last mile experience, right? The lockers and the PUDOs and their strategic assets in some senses. So the question I think we'd pose is, does ownership of the locker networks matter as much as their location? And what I mean by that, I think, is that does the brand of the locker, if that makes some sense, or who owns that locker, be it carrier ABC, is that as important as the location? And I think there's the fundamental is they provide convenience, right? And we touched upon rural locations, what have you. So I'll go to you. I haven't asked you. I'll start with you, Vanja. What's your take on this prediction? The last mile stayed practical, and then the ownership changed. What do you think about that?
I think it has a huge importance because it's a little bit like who owns PUDO. Well, if you imagine, if you're a retailer and you are, let's say you have 30% of all your packages going to this locker, and they also have, the last meeting with your customers. So who you pick, for one thing, is really important, because that's going to be your last impression. It's what they find and what they see that's going to matter, and it's an extension of your brand. It's going to follow you, but it's also so it's like the brand question, like they're an extension of you. The next thing is that if you don't have options, and if you haven't divided your eggs in different baskets, as you say in finance, if they change your prices or they imply new terms and conditions, you're going to be very vulnerable if they raise their prices. So you have to have more flexibility, and you have to have more options, like in general. So you have to think about these things too, that you're not too dependent. So I mean, in that sense, it matters. So it's about your vulnerability, that they own the last, the end of the customer journey. So it has importance.
Yeah.
I joined PostNord. I think it's fair to say perhaps one of the largest, certainly a very well-known carrier in the Nordics, especially in Sweden. And it it was, well, on the one hand surprising, but also quite obvious. But the amount of research and work that goes into choosing where you deploy PUDO and lockers and so forth, it's kind of mind blowing. You know, looking at footfall, peak times, the infrastructure, the roads, in other words, how to actually get there, and so on. So there's a huge amount of homework that goes on. It's not simply a locker. Of course there is, but it's surprising how much work goes into it.
Yeah. I mean, I think my point of view is actually quite different here. So customers don't really care about who's delivering the parcel. I mean, what they care about is a promise kept. I think that's why consolidation in sort of last mile market is rather significant in this instance. So yeah, I think that's my only take on it. At the end of the day, did I receive my parcel where I wanted to receive it? Is the promise kept? So yeah, delivery network, great, but at the end of the day, it goes back to the consumer, right? Did you meet my needs, basically? Yeah.
I think I would like to combine your both answers. I think there's definitely a point in is the promise kept. It's also highly dependent on which type of products you are buying, right? If you're buying it as a gift, maybe the promise would be more of importance, right? Because if it doesn't arrive, you need to figure out the other gift.
Or disposable things like batteries, for argument's sake, where you really need it there and then. But it's it's on the other hand, it's not that important. If that makes sense, it's some nuance between
exactly
isn't it?
A consequence to it, right? And I also want to just echo what Vanja mentioned about the extension of the brand, because this is also it doesn't necessarily is just specific to locker deliveries, but it is a part of that as well. It is like what I tend to see is that consumers actually holding the brand with expectations
to account.
Yeah, exactly.
They book it on their webpage, so it has to, they don't know.
Exactly, and which be that, okay, the delivery is late, or this is my experience with the communication. It was poor communication, even though if it was a locker delivery. So I would say that. Yeah, I think I started off well, echoing both of your points. Smart people with me today.
It's a little bit the same like last mile carrier. Like I had an experience myself, and it was. I think I went through this whole journey. It's like a subject for an entire podcast. But in the end, after it was lost and like nothing worked, then. I spoke to a very well-known carrier. It was very nice, cleared up the problems, and then, like the statistics shows, even though if you make a mistake, if you explain what happened, I'll be fine. I'll use you again. But the last carrier that came, a small carrier, was basically very angry and just dumped my sofa on the pavement and left. And was annoyed and was supposed to help me, but for some reason just changed his mind. But then that's what you remember. And now, of course, I know more because I might know a little bit more about retail than most people. But most people they buy something on the webpage. They don't see the whole network and how everything is connected using delivery partners to make all of this orchestration work. You see, like I bought my sofa and I made my choices on your website, and you're supposed to make this happen. And in the end, if you don't know better, or if everyone isn't really interested in like what goes on in the back, but then you think like it was like this brand, like they really don't care, like they just like my sofa is here on the pavement, and they left after it didn't come when it was supposed to, and then you.
Who's a carrier again? Oh yeah.
No, but so I think I had all of these. Like I was the textbook example of what like the research all says, like a human being will react. So in the end, like the end station, whoever delivers you, it's like the best. It's the best experience of the whole thing. Like it's when you receive your package. It's what you've been waiting for, your anticipation, and you're so close, and then something happens. So of course, you're going to remember either it's going to be a fantastic experience, and you're going to keep on buying from that company, or you're going to or you're going to have less trust.
It's the two extremes, isn't it? You have an amazing experience and you're so surprised by it. You tell people about it, you leave a review, and then the flip side is, of course, when things go wrong, then you also tell people that things didn't quite go so well. Guys, we'll speed through some of these here because I really want to get to one of the last points here. Resilience held, but trade policy took over. And what we mean by that is that it was fundamentally about businesses needing to have more flexible networks. And I think what happened was that the theme was correct, I was spot on, but the cause was unexpected, right? So tariffs and customs, do we want to go there? I'm not sure, but it's been in the headlines a lot. And it created a lot of disruption, right, for various reasons. And fundamentally about a backup carrier would only be useful then if it's already connected to you. So you don't want to be scrabbling for another potential carrier. And there's other variables here as well. For example, a fuel crisis, right? Just simply not having the fuel to ever go ahead and do it. So the question I pose to you is, how quickly can a business, this is a loaded question, how quickly can a business activate plan B? If only there was a solution for such a thing. Alex, take it away.
No, but it's. I think what's really interesting with this is that I've been having conversations with a lot of companies the last 3 years, particularly the last half year, where it's going back to my point that I was brought up before with the investment about APIs or integration works in general, is that. What I want to say is that I've been seeing companies are willing to set them up for success for changes. So I have, during those last 3 years, been meeting one company that is having one carrier, and that's it. And the number, and I was fairly curious, like, okay, this is differ quite much from the other companies I'm working with. And the reason was that, putting the eggs in the same basket, getting a better price, fair enough. But what I tend to see in the time aspect of it is that that's super crucial for a lot of things. Mentioned tariffs, mentioning international growing or growth plans in general, new markets, new money coming in. What I want to say is that I think that the gap between the suppliers that is doing a very good job and maybe a less good job is basically the ones that is shortening that time of actually being up and running in a number of, and this is a tricky one, but let's say a number of days at least. Which could be compared to another supplier or a company where you are enabling that after several months. Then potentially that is already too late. The revenue is, it's kind of a window of opportunity. And then when that is closed, it doesn't matter. It's gone. I don't know if that answers your question, Tom. But
I think so. Any guys, anything else to add to that?
I mean, even businesses that sort of today don't consider themselves global, are being affected by sort of these customs rules, tariffs and cross-border complexities. A lot of those ones. So what's changed is that I think for me, resilience is no longer just about having another supplier. It's about having systems that's capable of adapting quickly when those regulations sort of change. And so it goes back to the flexibility. How quick can we be in adapting to a new, if something should change, that is. And that's, of course, having a system that's able to do that, as opposed to, yes, we're resilient, but then what?
And just to add on top of that, I think there's one case that I'm remembering of now that was mentioning that was using two different systems due to, let's say, as a backup plan, pure tech backup plan. So it's not for commercials. It's not about time of implementing carrier. It's like if, let's say, your system is down, I could use the other one. And I think, I don't know if we will see more of that in the future.
Quite smart.
It is quite smart.
Or extra capacity during peak as well that you could turn on.
100%. And in that case, that wasn't so beneficial for us as a company, but was fairly a clever move. Like it makes sense from that aspect to be more robust.
Comes back to the API point, doesn't it? That,
100%.
Using the infrastructure.
100%.
Electrification, and that was in and around the split in electrification. Really, it's fundamentally about the electrification of what would you call it? The two different modes. There are many, but let's say two different modes of transport. It's vans and heavy trucks. In other words, heavy trucks obviously get the freight. They move the product from A to B to warehouse, X and Y. But then it's the van typically doing part of the last mile. You might switch over to bikes or what have you. But those are the two obvious electrification points. Electric vans, I'm citing from the report here. So electric vans reached around 12% of EU registrations, which is formidable. It's big. Electric trucks reached around 4.4%. So the question then, I think for all of us, is why is urban delivery? In other words, why do we think that electrification of vans is happening ahead of the heavy trucks? And is there any deeper meaning to that? I'll throw it to you, Vanja, because I think this needs a bit of unpacking in a sense.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's not an easy one, I know.
No, but obviously it's easier to apply this to shorter routes, right? And use it like in the city. It's easier to plan routes, and it's way harder to use electrify traffic in longer routes. There's many things that has to do with this, like emissions planning. There's compliance. There are more rules. But I just think it's a matter of time, because obviously this is happening, but it's happening really fast, in the shorter stretches. That's for sure. So I mean, I don't see like that there is a. That there is a tension here. It's moving on. It's already happening fast, but the longer stretch is just going to take more time. It's pretty new.
Take infrastructure sort of catching up, if you like, or needs to run ahead of the game, right? When you have talking about the charging and so
you could just look at Norway and Sweden, or like in other countries, to see how many charging points you have, or like UK.
I could say something negative about the UK, but yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, just getting over horse and cart. We'll speed forward, guys. Warehouse robotics advanced unevenly. So what we said was that robotics would improve productivity, but the adoption would be uneven. What's actually happened, what we've seen happening, is that large operators, they continued investing heavily. I think that's one of the things you can look in your LinkedIn stream, and I think we've seen a lot of that. But the middle market, in other words, the less larger operators, still facing the same key challenges: cost, integration, scale, operational complexity. So the question I throw to you is: robotics widening the gap between the larger operators and everybody else? In other words, to put another way, if you have very deep pockets, you can essentially you deploy very advanced robotics, what have you. But to the smaller players, they're still having to depend more on manual work, manual labor, perhaps less efficient processes. To what extent do we feel that kind of gap is widening? I'd say. This is a tricky one. I'm going to go to you, Vanja, because I think you're there.
Okay. We touched upon this a little bit before, that we talk about this amazing transformation, but it doesn't really do much if the customers don't feel the end result. So let's say if you're in a Amazon warehouse and you have your picking is faster. Again, we go back to this orchestration thing, because if you don't have the systems communicating, so if you don't make the cutoff time, then you have a fast picking, but it's not being delivered to the customer, so it's going to be a disappointment. So none of this really matters unless you have like the network communicating with each other. So I guess like the theme of this whole conversation is about that. Like you may want to improve these these different things. There are different moving components. And the whole idea here with AI and the communication and standardization is to have all of these components communicating with each other. So like robotics and picking and all of these things happening, that's where we're going, right? But if this is something that's growing faster, or then everything else has to kind of keep up with it. And if it doesn't, then you're just going to have like an amazing picking robot who's going to like fill up the warehouse, but it's going nowhere unless whatever controls the carrier and the delivery is as good. So I think this is the essence of what we're talking about over and over again. Yeah.
I mean, on your point on the clear divide between like the larger retailers, being able to sort of get things moving as opposed to the mid-sized companies that are very selective. I think there should be a clear sort of investment when it comes to picking who should do what, etc. And so I think every investment has to demonstrate that sort of a clear return, and that's probably healthy because it keeps the focus on solving a real operational challenge or problem. I think.
Alex, any thoughts?
I think the inputs from Vanja and Frederick was on point. And just a small reflection, and I've been talking to a huge amount of 3PLs the last couple of years, and also when reflecting a bit, it's about actually a handful of them that actually have an auto store that have been, let's say, investing fully in robotics, automation, and then I would say the mid-market is rather having the entry point in not maybe the auto store, it's rather a small piece of the picking. But if that is going to increase or not, kind of back to your first point, how deep is the pockets, right? What's the possibilities?
So we're nearly there. We've got 2 more to do, and then I'm going to pose a question to you all. But first of all, regulation moved rather than disappeared. So what we thought was going to happen, regulation would tighten around carbon and data, did indeed. But that said, some climate rules softened or some were delayed. But the new pressures, so that was what we thought that might be the case, but really new pressures emerged. That's in and around customs, AI transparency, for example, marketplace regulation, consumer rights, the online withdrawal function, which is what we talked about in the last episode. So we'll put a link somewhere to that one. And I think this is a really interesting one to get into, which is, are businesses prepared, or the question I'm going to give to you guys is, are businesses prepared for regulation arriving? Well, there's that in itself is a question, but also from several directions at once. So, for example, we could take that the online withdrawal function, which in a nutshell, that gives consumers a very easy way to cancel an order once it's been placed, full transparency. And the here and now is, for example, a limit on the amount of returns that can be destroyed, and what would you then do with this? So there are moving targets here, and they're happening all the time. Some might be touching your logistics functions. Some might be about, take for example, the withdrawal function. That might be your e-com, at least the visuals of it. So it's going to be touching different parts of the business. Frederick, what's your gut feeling to things, or what's your sort of finger in the wind when talking to customers when it comes to these different regulations which are coming? How well prepared for businesses are, or how well prepared are businesses for these things?
Yeah, but I think then they should assume that from AI governance, customs changes, sustainability, all of these different sort of reporting, they have to assume that sort of the regulatory landscape will continue to evolve. I mean, it will definitely change. So, I mean, the organisations coping today are the ones building sort of flexibility into their systems instead of sort of treating every new regulation as a standalone project. So adaptability here is, I think, is becoming a competitive capability in itself. So that's that's my one take on it. To treat every single sort of project as this will definitely evolve. It will change next month, or it will change. So how flexible are we to be able to actually cope when that change happens, basically.
Vanja, any thoughts on?
Yeah, this is like the new rules is going to force logistics companies to organize their data properly.
Yep.
So we continue on the theme, and that means that you can't really have your emission data and all of these stuff going around on an Excel sheet, or like some things are reported in email, some things are on Slack and so forth. So it's going to matter that you work with partners who has all the data organized and who can send the reports and who can show that they're compliant. So I think that's gonna be a lot of work for companies, but also I hope in the long run it's gonna also make things much simpler. It's just that like every time new rule comes, there's a little bit of chaotic chaos going on, and then things settle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it's going to be more and more important to make sure that you surround yourself with partners who has control on this, because
Really good point.
it's going to be a really big deal. So be prepared and
I tend to see that as well. Like as you mentioned, okay, so these regulations is half away, 1 year, 2 years ahead of us. And what I've been seeing the last couple of years is as well like talking to a supplier as nShift, but it's also other players like, okay, what's your take on this? How can we prepare ourselves ahead? And that's mainly, I would say, about actually having the data in place. And then, as I think a good one from Frederick was basically not to just, having as a panic project in the end, like, okay, now it's the last quarter, let's fix it, like, because that is creating a lot of friction, a lot of panic, and a lot of cost that is quite maybe not necessary as well if you just plan it right and have the data in place.
Guys, we got there. We're at the last trend.
Oh, really?
I think this is one. For me, anyway, it's it's something I find really interesting, and it was about the customer demand or the movement, should we say, of customer demand. I'll get into that a little bit. So, what do we mean? So, what we said was that AI and changing shopping behavior would reshape retail. I think that's something we can all relate to. I can think about how I shop for things has changed in a very big way. What's happened? So it's an opinionated take, I think, but AI agents obviously move quickly into product discovery. Again, I can think of myself if I'm buying depending on what the product is, I usually turn to AI, my preferred LLM, to go ahead and do that research for me. And I'll cite another figure from the report that AI and agents drove 20% of holiday retail sales, which is massive. Oh, yeah. That's massive. Oh. That's really, the needle is changing in front of us. And the AI referral traffic or AI referred retail traffic rose sharply, and that would be people going in saying, for argument's sake, I want a pair of X and Y to go on my holiday over there, and the AI would do, presumably a lot of analysis on what would be suitable and what have you. But merchants are still controlling the checkout, fulfillment, returns, and as you've talked about and sort of double clicked on, Frederick, delivery promise, all important. So I'm going to ask you. Well, I'll ask you two things. I'm going to say personally. How if you look back at your own behavior over the last year, how has it changed how you personally shop? And then the second thing I'll come to is, what do you think retailers need to be thinking about? So, for example, what information must retailers be making readable to AI agents? So if I go with you, Alex, first of all, how has your personal behavior changed with AI?
So I have two small daughters.
Okay.
And I tend to, a lot of the purchases goes to them, obviously. So I would say that I haven't changed my...
your future taxi service.
Yes, kind of figured that one out. No, but I wouldn't say from a personal point of view, the purchase behavior haven't changed so much due to the products I'm purchasing in general. But I have been reflecting a bit on it, and if I was, let's say, purchasing other products, maybe that would have affected my, let's say, behavior a bit. Because with, let's say, children's clothes, I prefer to see them in store, for instance. also, let's say, shoe sizes and all that. So also trying to take the girls with me to the store. That is making it easier as well. So, but as online, I would say, mainly that the products I'm purchasing is maybe not so lean into a different behavior.
All right.
I would say.
What products are they?
We'll leave that to a future.
That's one for you.
Vanja, if I ask same question to you, but also if you could kind of explore a little bit, what information should retailers be thinking about making readable to AI agents? So if you're a retailer today, what would you say are the kind of things that they need to be moving forward with to make sure that their products, perhaps their services, are discoverable to AI, given clearly that's the direction of travel, right?
I mean, with time, we're going to buy things more with AI agents. And as we've talked about before, AI need readable data. So it means that, again, you're going back to that you have to have structured, readable, non-biased information about your merchandise. And the AI is going to select, and maybe that's a little bit the unfairness too, because the AI is going to select whatever it can read. So if you have like an awesome website, and normally that's not a problem, like you have like a great products and you have a lot of interest, but you haven't organized your website, it isn't standardized. You're too you're not straightforward enough, then the AI is not going to pick your site because it doesn't understand what you're trying to communicate. So if you just make it that simple, like you're trying to communicate something that AI can't read because your data is too messy, so you won't be picked. So we already see that. Basically, I'm sorry I don't have the numbers in my head, but I can certainly give them to you guys after, and maybe.
We'll have a link to the report.
Yeah.
So,
but we predict that we're going to use AI agents when we shop. So you need to like look at how that's going to be interpreted. If you want to be successful there, and you also see how the world exists as well. You see the high streets are, you don't really have too many shops left. You see like big major fashion platforms or electronics platforms. You really can't go and buy your thing, or you have Amazon, and Amazon is really like cheaper than most, and people gonna look there first maybe. And if they're a store, maybe it's a pop-up store, or they have certain objects, but most likely not the thing that you want. And then you're going to go and buy it online anyway. So I think as we get more comfortable with AI, and that's going to be connected to the fact that we need to feel safe with buying, like the shops and the banks are already preparing for this and have already started. So you have your tokens and you can actually buy things with your AI agent. But it's very early, and we still, like the normal consumer still feels a little bit antsy about it. But once we see, and once we adopted well, and we see that there's, I can buy safely with my AI agent, it's not going to go crazy and do things I don't want to, then it's going to be natural to do it. And then you really, as a retailer, have to prepare to make your website more adapted for the agent and not so much for the person. And I think that you're going to need to front your website differently. And I think that's going to be like the next wave of what we all have to learn. So what is it exactly I need to do in order to be found? Like, how do I work with my marketing? Is it SEO, GEO, or is it both? So that's the next journey.
and the systems and infrastructure which are AI ready.
Yeah,
so to
absolutely.
carrier options or whatever.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if I've got a textbook feedback on this, but I think AI, I mean, is only sort of accelerating those expectations that consumers have at the moment. So I don't believe AI will sort of replace retailers, but I mean, it will sort of absolutely change how they evaluate their buying options, etc. So businesses, therefore, I think, need their delivery information to be just as accessible to AI agents as they are people. In the end. So, that's a clear sort of textbook feedback I've got on this.
Guys, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to end on one thing. It's great being a moderator because I can just don't need just like a deep dive on AI model training. No, but very shortly we'll wrap this up. I think by saying, because we'll revisit this, I think, at the end of the year. So purely personal opinion, won't hold you to it much, but if we go around the table here, if you were to predict one thing, what trend do you think we're going to see, more or less, anything top of mind that you think? We'll go around left to right here. So Alex, if you were to predict one thing, what do you think we're going to see more or less, or what trend do you think is going to be kind of playing out the next 6 months?
I think going back to the comfy consumer, and what I think will happen is that the number of parcel lockers, deliveries, PUDO points, not home delivery, more leaning into actually being comfy in their, let's say, ordinary day-to-day life will increase even more. I don't know exactly the number, maybe that's said in the report as well, but I think that will increase a bit as well. Low-hanging fruit.
That's a good bet, I think. Vanja?
Well, if I look at retailers and the logistics companies, I think we're going to see the manual work is going to disappear because the world is going to have such demands that you can't do things. All the old school things that still lives on, like we send things in email and like the non-automated movements, I think is going to disappear pretty fast. Because if the entire world is slowly or fast adopting AI, then it's like they will have another language. They're going to be out of the loop, and you can't be out of the loop if you want all of this to work. So I think that's going to be disappearing very quickly.
Yeah.
You got the last word, Frederick.
Yeah.
Well,
make it a good one.
I'll make it good.
Yeah.
Right. Actually read. My biggest takeaway from this report is that sort of logistics has fundamentally changed its role within businesses, right? So it used to be viewed as a back office, function, just moving parcels from point A to point B. Whereas today it's directly sort of influencing conversion, customer loyalty, and profitability. So the companies I think are succeeding aren't necessarily investing the most. I think they're connecting their systems, making better operational decisions, and consistently sort of delivering on their promises, like we've mentioned. So from my conversations with retailers across the Nordics and Europe, that's exactly where sort of the market is heading. And I believe the second half of the year will sort of only reinforce that trend. I got the last word. Yay!
You got the last one.
Good one,
guys. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, and I think somewhere in and around this, we'll obviously put a link to the mid-year report, and I'd also recommend reading the one from the start of the year and the mid-year one. I think it gives you a good sort of finger in the wind of where things are headed. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.